Hi everyone, it is Tutorial Dude once again, back now with my top 10 tricks and tips and tricks for Adobe Premiere Pro. I had originally planned on doing this video as part of my beginner's tutorial, but realized it made a lot more sense just to separate this out. So this is now the separate video. If you don't know anything about Premiere Pro, I would recommend going back to my tutorial for beginners on Premiere Pro, Creative Cloud CC 2015. I'm going to be literally just picking up from where I left off on the last video. This is the exact project that I had been working on with all of my test footage and this sequence and this project that I had for that tutorial. So we're just picking up from that. And I'm going to go over a bunch of stuff in this video, just really simple tricks that you can kind of use to make editing easier, and just the slightly more advanced tools to use when you're editing. So just really quickly, I'm going to go over what is going to be in this video. We're going to go over keyboard shortcuts and how to edit those or change those for yourself. We're going to go over syncing external sound. So a lot of times, especially nowadays, if you're shooting with the DSLR, the audio on the camera is really crappy. So you're recording on, let's say, a Zoom H4 or some external audio recorder, and you need to sync the sound that was recorded separately from the video. And hopefully you are smart enough to have recorded reference audio onto your video, and Premiere Pro has a really simple way to analyze that audio and sync those together. So we're going to go over that. We're going to go over subclips. We're going to go over basic video effects, and that includes color correction. We'll go over basic audio effects, including some basic audio correction to fix some problems in audio. We're going to go over a very basic multi-clip editing. I don't really have a good example project, so we're just going to use some footage that I have, but it'll be enough to show you what you can do with multi-clip. We're going to go over time shifting or changing the time, so either slowing things down, speeding them up, and some of the tools we can use with that. And finally, we're going to go over image stabilization, the latest version of Premiere Pro CC. I'm pretty sure it was in the 2014 version as well. In the Creative Cloud version, they've got they've adapted and brought in a bunch of really amazing After Effects effects or tools that you used to have to send video over to After Effects to do, but now you can do it straight in Premiere Pro. It makes things so much easier just to keep things here. Not just image stabilization, but also morph cut, which unfortunately I don't really have good enough footage to show you an example of that, but I can show you basically how one goes about doing that, just as another additional tip. So let's get started. As I mentioned in my other tutorial, in the beginner's tutorial, keyboard shortcuts really make a huge difference when you're editing. You know, it's analogous to, you know, if you're typing, if you're trying to write something, you know, whatever it is, a short story or even just an email. You want to be able to type as fast as possible so you can get your thoughts down as quickly as possible. So it's helpful to know how to type correctly. And of course, nowadays, I think most people do know how to do that. But the same thing goes with editing. If you're just clicking around the screen all the time and you're dragging and you're doing all this stuff manually kind of with the mouse, you're not going to be able to follow your own creative ideas as quickly as you'd want to. With keyboard shortcuts, it allows you to be a much quicker editor, so you're able to edit at the same speed as your creativity, so to speak. So it's really important to get keyboard shortcuts in your brain. And there's default keyboard shortcuts, of course, in Premiere Pro, and we'll let me just pull them up here. For those of you who didn't, sorry, I should have gone over that. So we go to File. I'm going to close this again. We go to Premiere Pro, then we go to Keyboard Shortcuts here. Okay, so Premiere Pro menu item, then Keyboard Shortcuts, and it brings up this Keyboard Shortcuts preference box. And these are the default keyboard shortcuts. And we can go ahead and edit these. And for example, let's just say the export media keyboard shortcut, which is one that you'll use. I mean, clearly not that often because you're only going to be doing it at the end, but you do use it relatively often. The default for Premiere Pro is Command and M for media, I guess. Now, I'm actually really used to, because I used Final Cut Pro for a very long time, I'm used to Command E. And so maybe what I'd like to do is have this be Command E instead of Command M. So the way that I do this, I've drilled down. I know exactly where this is, but if you're not sure where a particular tool that you're trying to make a keyboard shortcut is, you can actually search for it. So here, if I do export, of course it's not. Well, actually, you know what? I think I need to do media. File export media. There we go. So now it's found it by searching. And what we can do is see here, it's Command M. We can delete that by clicking this thing here, and now double click on it. And now as soon as I've double clicked and it's highlighted like this, I can just type in the new shortcut that I want, in this case Command E, and it's changed it. Now you see here, Adobe warns us that Command E was already in use by the application edit original command. Now I rarely use this, so in this case I really don't care. Now, so the Command E is now, or the edit original Command E shortcut has been replaced by the export media shortcut in this case. And so I've now changed that keyboard shortcut. Now when I hit Command E, I'm going to be exporting to that media dialog box. That if you watch my previous tutorial, you know what that is. Otherwise, you probably should know what that is. Anyway, you see, as soon as I did that, the keyboard layout preset changed to custom, because this is now an edited preset. I can save as, and I can change this to tutorial dude preset, and hit save. And you can actually sync these with your, if you've got a Creative Cloud account, which again I recommend you have at this point. We don't need to go through the whole thing, but you can sync your keyboard presets and a bunch of other preset settings with your account, which means if you're going from computer to computer, or even if, look, down the line you end up becoming a professional editor and you're working for a client, and maybe now you're working at the client's office on their edit machine. Editors would always carry around, a thumbstick, or before that, even just a disk with all of their presets on it, so that if they came to a new computer, they could just load in all of their preferences in. Now you don't even need to carry anything with you. You just need to sync it with your Creative Cloud account, and it'll automatically pull in these keyboard shortcuts. Now, one other thing, if you're coming from, let's say, Final Cut Pro, and you're used to all the keyboard shortcuts from Final Cut Pro, Adobe very smartly said, hey, we know we probably got a bunch of people coming over from other editing programs, and we should make it as easy as possible for them to edit as quickly as possible. Rather than having to go through and edit all the keyboard shortcuts yourself, they actually already have a preset here for Final Cut Pro and for Avid. You select these, and it basically makes 99% of the shortcuts that you're used to from Final Cut or from Avid now do the same thing within Premiere. And this is a really cool function. I used this when I started off in Premiere coming from Final Cut, and of course I have my own presets now that I use myself, but there you go. So that was the basics to doing keyboard shortcuts. And so now if I do Command E, look at that, we come up with the export settings. And the same thing, I know that Command K is a cut. That is a cut in this keyboard shortcut preset, and all sorts of other stuff. Command T brings me to maybe it doesn't. Okay, well, I guess that's in my personal one. Command R There we go. So we just we can see what the various different keyboard shortcuts do for us there. So now we're going to go on to syncing external sound. Okay, so what I've done here, typically this would happen with a project, let's say, where there's some dialogue going on, and that's been captured separately, as I mentioned, on a third-party recorder, so on a separate audio recorder. So you've got separate video and you've got separate audio, and you want to sync those together. I've kind of just mocked this up. So I have this video clip here, which is a bunch of people sledding, and I'm actually going to remove the in and out markers from my previous edit here. And what I've already done is I prepared a separate audio file here. This is essentially the same exact audio that comes from this video, but just so we can see how this works, actually what I'm going to do is drag this entire audio folder down so I get a bin already called audio. And there we have it. And now what I'm going to do, typically what you would do in a case like this is you'd create, like, let's say a sequence, right? And you'd call that sequence sync, because we're going to be syncing stuff. And again, as I've gone over in my previous tutorial, you could just drag media to this and it'll automatically choose the right preset. So we're going to drag this video over here. Here we've got this clip of these people sledding, right? And here we've got my separate audio, and I'm going to drag this down. And you can see actually, oh, it is actually not the same exact length because I didn't actually export all the audio. And this is just a good example, because often what happens is that your audio person, or even if it's just you don't start recording both video and audio at the same time, so the clip lengths are a little different. So here we go. We've got our video with the linked audio from the video here, and then we've got our separate audio here. And you can do this with, you can just bring a whole bunch of clips down into the sync sequence and just bring them all together. But what you're going to do is you're going to select the clips you want to sync. You're going to right click, and you're going to go to synchronize right here. Right? Okay, we're going to hit synchronize, and there's going to be a couple different options for how we can synchronize this audio. If you know that they were both started recording at the same exact time, you know that the clip start is where it's going to be synchronized, you can do clip start or clip end. Personally, I don't know how this would ever be valid, because then you can just drag them at the beginning, but at any rate, that's one option. Time code, when I first got started, this is how you do sync all the time. You'd have a time code generator that was feeding the same exact time code to your video camera, and this was, of course, video cameras that were able to record time code, and your audio had the same exact time code, so you could sync things up by time code. So if you are still using that, or you've got equipment that can handle that, and you know your time code is in sync, you can sync via time code. But of course, majority of us are going to be doing it by the audio. We have this reference audio on our linked video, and we've got our separate audio, and we want to sync them based on the audio. We're going to choose mixdown is usually the best option, but if it doesn't really quite work, you can play around with which channel, the left or the right, or in this case 1 or 2, are going to be cleanest and give you the best synchronization. So here we go. We're just going to hit OK. It's going to go through the processing, and boom, look at that. It has now synced the audio up, and if we open up the waveform, we can see here, sure enough, those look really in sync to me. And if I play these back, yeah, that sounds good. So there we go. That's the basics of using Adobe Premiere Pro to sync audio and video together. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to move on to is what's known as a subclip. And a subclip I find really useful when you're doing what's known in the industry as logging, essentially. So let's say, let's say for the sake of argument, you're working on a documentary and you've got hours and hours of footage. And you've got it all in your bins here, and you know that within a particular clip, there's just a couple things that you might want, and you want to be able to pull those out ahead of time and just have those clips ready to go. So what we can do is we can load up a particular clip, right? And we can make in and out points. So let's say I want to actually start this as soon as I see this man walking. I want him fully in frame. This is what's most important to me, right? And I want just this. I don't want the rest of it. I know that this is the clip that I'm going to end up wanting. So once I have this, what I can end up doing is just dragging this back down to the video. Oh, no. Wait a minute. Okay, this might be something. Well, anyway, so we'll go up here and make subclip. Okay, it's Command U now. Used to be able to drag it down, but at any rate, so now Command U with my keyboard shortcuts, of course, or you go to Clip, Make Subclip, and you can choose the name for it. You know, in this case, we'll do man walking through snow, and we hit OK, and it's created. Let's put it in a random bin, of course. So I'm going to create a new bin and call this my selects. Selects refers to the selected clips that you might want, and I'll just drag this into here for now. So now if I double click on this to load it up into my source monitor, we see it's created essentially what appears to Premiere Pro to be a brand new clip that is just what I want. So in the case that, let's say you're a camera person or you were shooting for, you know, like 20 minutes and there's only maybe like 3 minutes in that you actually want, and rather than having that 20-minute long clip that you've got to go through every time, you can just create subclips of all the best stuff. Or let's say you've got you know, you've shot a man on the street interview and you just want to pull out all the sound bites from that interview. You can use subclips to just grab all those and title them so you can see at a glance exactly where everything is. And this is really handy. It helps speed up your edit. And I can keep doing that with its same source clip. So here, this was my in and out points for this subclip. If I wanted to just have, for whatever reason, I just wanted to have the middle of his walking, I can do this as many times as I want to. If I hit Command U up here, I can man walking just a little, and now we've got this, and it's just that brief little part right in the middle where he's walking. So you can create as many subclips from a source clip as you want, and that's really handy, of course. So, okay, so that was subclips. What we're going to move on to now is multi-clip editing. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to close this down. Now again, multi-clip editing, unfortunately I don't really have decent source material to show you exactly the way that you would really use this, but one of the best cases that I can think of is for the use of multi-clip tool that Premiere Pro has. It's something like a concert where, let's say you've got 3 or 4 cameras shooting a band, and well, can do that later. You've got 3 or 4 cameras that have shot a band, and those cameras were running simultaneously at the different angles. You got one on the drummer, one on the guitar player, a wide shot, and maybe like on a jib or something moving around. You want to be able to cut between those, like almost like on a live TV show or something. You want to be able to cut and watch them all happen simultaneously and be able to cut to them on the fly on the camera. So the way that you would do this is you would have your different clips organized in such a way that you know, and maybe it's by song, or maybe if the video was being recorded for the entire concert, whatever, or whatever we're talking about, you have it organized so that the clips are relatively organized together already, and you grab the clips that you want to do multi-clip editing with, and you select them in your project bin here. You right click and you create multi-camera source sequence. And we're going to click this and we're going to get a prompt here. And there's a bunch of new stuff here. If you used to do this in Premiere Pro, CS, Creative Suite 6, or even in CC 2014, or one of the earlier versions, this looks a little bit different now. There's a lot more tools that we have at our disposal. So one of the first things that we can see is that as part of creating a multi-camera sequence, Adobe Premiere Pro will actually synchronize our media as well. So this is another great point where we could use timecode. The example I gave with music video or a concert rather, almost always you do sync with timecode in that case, so you make sure that everything is running at the exact same point. So you could have Premiere Pro sync via timecode, or if you want to do the audio mix down synchronization, you can do it that way too. In this case, none of my audio, I know this is not actually true multi-camera material, so it's not going to be synced. I'm just going to keep it as endpoint. Sequence preset, you can choose which preset you want. We're going to keep it automatic. It's going to basically base that off of the source material at this point. You can offset the audio by some frames if you know for whatever reason that the audio is off of the video for a certain amount of frames. You can automatically have it do that. You can automatically move these source clips to a processed clips bin, and this is really helpful if you're making a bunch of multi-camera source sequences. And you don't. This is automatically organizes everything, so you know what's been processed so far and what hasn't. I don't really care about that, so I've unchecked it. And then the audio, what settings you want, and then the camera names. You can either use the track names, the clip names, or enumerate cameras. Basically means it's just going to create camera numbers out of each of the source clips. So in this case, like 1, 2, and 3. I'm fine with that, so I'm going to keep it that way. You can also choose how you want it to name the sequence. Again, I'm just going to keep it like this. You could choose custom and go that way. But so okay, we're just going to hit OK here, and here we have now created this multicam source sequence, and you can see it looks kind of similar to the icon for a regular sequence, but of course this is a multicam sequence, and we've got this interesting extension at the end of it here. And now if I were to double click on this to bring it up in our source monitor, we see it has created this multi-camera preview where we see all 3 videos lined up in this grid. So the first video, camera 1, will say is selected, and I can be selecting different video for this. And this is just, again, our source monitor is just for preview, of course. So if we play through this up here, we see stuff is playing simultaneously, and that allows us to kind of preview everything. But let's say we really want to be editing this. So what we can do is drag this, and I'm just going to drag it into the rough edit sequence we already have, because I already have it available. I think most likely you would make your own sequence out of this, and you can actually do that really easily in Premiere Pro by right-clicking and choosing new sequence from clip. You know what, for the sake of argument, we're just going to do that. I'm going to move this up here and call this multicam. Open up that sequence. And here we have our multicam sequence. And we can see here a couple things. Within the video track, it says MC1, multi-camera 1. That means camera 1 is selected and active right now. And this is what's important, because what we want to be able to do is hit 1, 2, or 3 and cut, right? Cut between those different shots on the fly. Now, we want to be able to see, we've got the preview. If we were to double select this, it would come up again here, but we actually want to be editing these, and we want to see it here on our program monitor. So we're going to hit the settings icon, which is this wrench, and instead of composite video, we're going to choose multi-camera. And as soon as I do this, we're going to get this layout that for anybody who's worked in live television or any kind of multi-camera setting. This looks familiar. You've got your preview monitors here with the 3 different tracks, and then you've got your actual program and your main video over here. This is what's live, and we can see this is selected, so it's over here. If I were to select this by clicking on it, it would select this, and down here we see now this is showing MC2. Now I just need to double check something within these keyboard shortcuts, because I'm not entirely clear what the keyboard shortcuts are for this. Okay, there we go. Cut to camera. Oh, so these don't actually have shortcuts right now. So I'm going to create these shortcuts right now. Control 1, Control 2, Control 3, just for the sake of argument. Okay. Okay, and then select. I'm actually also going to do Control Option 1. Control Option. Oops. Now, if we had the default Adobe Premiere Pro keyboard shortcut, this would actually already have been selected for us. You just need to double check. So what I've done is created keyboard shortcuts for selecting cameras and cutting to cameras. I'll explain what that means in a second. For those of you who know multi-clip editing, you probably know what that means already. You could skip ahead a little bit, but I'll just explain. Basically, we're going to play through this now, and as it's playing, I can be cutting to one of the different cameras, and it's going to be creating those edits on the fly, and that's that cut to camera 1, 2, or 3. And the keyboard shortcuts I've created now is Control 1, 2, or 3 is going to cut to 1, 2, or 3, camera 1, 2, or 3. And it's going to create those edits as I'm doing it. If, let's just say, I want to preview, I don't necessarily want to make the cut, I just want to be able to see as I'm watching through something, I want to see a particular camera in the main viewer, I can select that camera. And that is Control, in our case, Control Option 1, 2, or 3. That's helpful if you just want to, you don't necessarily want to make the cut, you just want to be able to see that video bigger just to see what exactly is going on. So I'm just going to play through here and show you what happens when I hit Control 1, 2, or 3 as we're going. Camera 2 is active as we begin, so here we go. I'm going to hit Control 1. It's cutting to camera 1, 3. And we've actually run out of video. And you see it's made those edits for me. Now, one thing we noticed, though, is that the audio did not get edited. And that's because right now I have, if I go to multi-camera here, where is audio follows video? Okay, they've changed some of this around a little bit. Okay, let me just see here. Okay. Sorry, folks, I just gotta find this. We're trying to find an audio follows video option. Huh. I apologize. It has changed since the last time I did this regularly. I guess the easiest way now is to audio follows video, and we're going to do Command Option A. Okay. So with what audio follows video, right now audio is not following video, which means that as I'm cutting the video, the same audio plays all the way through. In that case that I gave you of a concert, of a music, that's exactly what you'd want. You don't want to cut the music. You know that the music, you probably actually have your music mixed down as a separate audio layer, and you don't want that to be cut up at all. You just want that same music to be playing all the way through. But let's say you've got a different kind of multi-clip. You've got 2 or 3 cameras that were running during a scene where 2 or more people are talking. And so you actually do want the audio from the particular camera that you're live on to be edited as well. In that case, you would want to have audio follow video. And in this case, I've done, what did I say? Option Command A means audio is going to follow video. And so theoretically now in this case, if I hit Control 1, well, it may be because I've already edited, but it would make an edit in both places and switch to that audio as well. I think it's because right now there's no audio, there's no video in that layer. Anyway, you can play around with that some more. That's just really basic look at multicam, multi-clip editing. Okay, just see where I am here. We've done keyboard shortcuts and syncing sound and subclips and multi-camera. Right, okay, so now I want to show you some really basic time changes in time, so slowing things down or speeding things up. And what I will do is bring in this clip of this guy walking again, because this is a good example. Actually, let me take that back. I'm going to do the people sledding. So I bring the people sledding into the sequence. This is just as an example. We want to go. There's this guy who's going to be sledding down. We'll start from right here. I'll make a cut and get rid of all this. So now if we play through, we see this guy sledding down the hill. Let's say I want to slow this down. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click here and I'm going to go to speed and duration, and here I have got a couple different options for how I can slow things down or speed things up. I can do it by percent. So if I do 200%, we're going to see the duration is going to go way down. It's going to be cut in half. It's going to go really quick. I want to slow this down. So if I go to 50%, I can see the duration is now going to go from 3 seconds, 10 frames to 6 seconds, 20 frames. I could also say, hey, I want this to be exactly 6 seconds long. That's probably easier just to type it. It's already automatically done it for us. But you see that it's slowed it down by 56.66%. I just want to go here again because I wasn't quite done showing you guys. Now, there are these other options here: reverse speed, maintain audio pitch, and ripple edit, shifting trailing clips. This means if you're pushing something because you've slowed it down now, and it's butting straight up, like let's say in this case, right here, let's say I wanted to slow this down, right, by 75%. It's going to be longer, which means that it's going to need more room in the sequence. If I hit ripple edit, shifting trailing clips, it's going to push those forward, and that's what we would want in this particular case. So back to this one here. If I play through this now, you see he's going much slower now. I know it's a little stuttery because there's a lot going on with my computer right now, so I apologize for that. But the other thing we see here is maintain audio pitch. And one thing that I'll show you actually with this last clip in our sequence here, because there's these annoying cars which are really loud. I'm going to make this a little quieter actually. Why am I not hearing them anymore? Oh, strange. I'm not hearing them anymore. I think I need to fix something here. At any rate, if you were to go to speed duration and then make this, let's say, much quicker, 200%. So now the cars are going to be driving really fast. Oh, come on, computer. The been driving really fast. It's going at double speed, but the audio is really high pitched now because the audio is also going twice as fast. What I actually want to do is maintain audio pitch, and it's still gonna speed the audio up, but it's going to not change the pitch of it, so it doesn't sound like it's sped up or slowed down. So when I hit play now, it's gonna have to render that audio, and there we go. Now that still sounds crappy, of course, because that car is a horrible sound, but it still sounds the same as before. It's quicker now. And then of course that last option, this is like in very, very particular cases, is to reverse speed. That means it's going to go backwards. So if I hit this, you're going to see those cars go backwards now. You really use that for very rare cases, but if you did, you have that option. So that is the basics of changing time, slowing things down, or speeding things up in Premiere. The one caution I always like to give people is that slow-mo, so fake slow motion that you do in an edit program is never going to look as good as actually recording in slow motion, because you're simulating information that's not there. You've only shot in, let's say, 25 or 30 frames or 24 frames. And so the computer, sure, it can kind of interpolate and kind of add information in between, but it's never going to be exactly perfect. It's always going to look that kind of fake look that I think once you have an eye for it, you know the difference. And I think most people can kind of tell the difference too. Real slow motion where let's say you're capturing at 60 frames per second or 90 frames per second or whatever, many more frames, and then you play that back at the standard 30 frames per second. So you've actually got all of the frames, the information there. That's going to look a lot cleaner, a lot nicer. So I would always recommend, if you're trying to do like real good looking slow motion, even though you've got these tools in Premiere, it's not really the best option for good-looking slow-mo. Speeding things up, that's a different story. Yeah, okay, so I got a few more things that I want to go over, but I actually need to take a quick break. So, well, you guys will, there's just going to be a cut here, and I'm going to continue on with the rest of these tips and tricks. So we're going to move on now to some basic effects, and I'm going to include video effects and audio effects. We're going to start with some basic video effects. So you're probably familiar, there is this effects tab here. I kind of went over it a little bit in my beginner's tutorial, but basically if we go to this effects tab, there we go. We have these different bins, these different folders with the various audio effects and video effects. Obviously, we're going to go to video effects first, and we've got a lot of stuff that we can work with here. One of the first things I want to show you is image stabilization effect. The effects that I'm going to show are really, I'm going to consider them more tools rather than like a creative effect necessarily. So the first clip I want to find is this one here, which is at some point, it is a little shaky. I just want to find a clip that's a little shaky at first. Yeah, actually, I think the other one is gonna be better, because I think at the beginning of this one, yeah, that's actually quite dramatic. So I am gonna go back to this one right here. So if I play this, you can see I was hand holding this, and so it's pretty shaky. And you know, that's certainly a look, but perhaps we want to straighten that out and make it look a lot smoother. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag this video. I'm just going to put it in this rough edit sequence just to show you guys. And so I'm going to go to effects, and again, it's much easier just to search here. So I'm going to search for the warp stabilizer effect, which is under the distort folder if you're just looking for it that way. And I'm going to drag that effect on top of this video. And the first thing that you'll see, I'm going to drop this out of the multi-camera mode. We don't need that anymore. The first thing you're going to see is that it's doing an analyzation in the background, step 1 of 2. So as you remember, if we go up to effect controls now in our source monitor, we can see all the effects, and here we see the warp stabilizer effect. I could, by the way, also have just And just as an example, I'll show you, if I click this video effect or clip now in my timeline, the effect controls now move to this, and I could drag the effect straight up into the effect controls and add it that way too. We don't need to do that. We've got it here. So we can see here the progress of the analyzation that Premiere Pro is doing in the background. And we've got a couple of options here, and we're going to wait for this. Now it's actually moving into the stabilization. And again, this has changed a little bit. It's been around for a couple of versions, and they've added a few more options now to the way that this works. And essentially what the warp stabilizer does is it uses a combination of scaling and cropping, and then optionally also literally warping parts of the image to make it appear as if everything is shot straight. And so if we play this through now, we can kind of get an idea. This is just the general. You can see, it might be a little stuttery for you guys, but you can see that clearly the camera is still moving, but rather than being a little jerky, it's much more fluid and smooth now, almost as if it was shot with a glide cam or some other kind of motion stabilization when it was shot, and that maybe has a much nicer aesthetic look for you guys. And we can dive into some of the options here. Clearly, smooth motion or no motion. If you want no motion at all, it's going to do a lot of crazy cropping to try to keep any camera movement at all out. So here we go. We'll see what this looks like now. This might not really be what we want, but yeah, you can see here that there was no motion at all, and that actually, it's done a lot of cropping to have that happen. And essentially it's doing all sorts of, it's making the image essentially move within the frame to counterbalance the actual movement of the camera. And that actually looks really great. And part of the reason for that is because I shot this footage at 1080. So there is enough resolution there. You can see that it's been scaled 111%. So we're cropping in, we're almost, imagine zooming in a little bit so that there's enough room for a Premiere Pro to float around with that image. So there we go. We have two ways that we can stabilize that. We can either make it look a lot more fluid, like it was shot on a Steadicam or a glide cam, or we use the no motion and we make it just a static shot as if it was shot on a tripod, which is, you know, look, oh, we'll fix it in post thing that a lot of people say is not really a great approach to filmmaking. But nonetheless, for a lot of us who are shooting kind of run and gun, just on the fly, we don't have time necessarily always to set up a tripod, steady shot. Maybe it's towards the end of the day, we're a little tired, so you know, the camera is shaky. And this is a great, easy way to kind of fix some moderate shakiness. We can also just choose exactly how the stabilization is going to happen. You can play around with these a little bit if you're not really getting the exact look that you wanted. But that is one really key tool to use in terms of an easy trick to fix video. So the other thing that is in the latest version now of Premiere Pro CC, so the 2015 version, is an effect called the morph cut. And that's actually considered a transition. And the morph cut fixes what's known as a jump cut. And jump cuts are an aesthetic choice that are often used a lot, especially in YouTube videos. And it's become a lot more acceptable, not just in terms of what people do, but what viewers are used to seeing. So it's not as big of a deal, but it is certainly a look. And so maybe you don't necessarily want that jump cut. And a jump cut, of course, is maybe when there's just, you know, a second or two, or even less, just a few frames taken out. If you're just like cutting out, you know, 2 words that someone says, and so they've hardly moved in the frame at all, but it's clearly still a little bit of a cut. What the morph cut allows us to do is to heal that. Now, unfortunately, the morph cut tool, as it is right now in Premiere, is really, it basically uses almost facial detection or body detection because it really only works for people. I'm going to see if I can make it work for this because there's something very clear in the image. I want to get something where there's clearly a difference between where these people are here. I might not be able to have a good enough image for this. Unfortunately, this might be a bit tough. Bring this out a little bit. Alright, I'm actually just going to get rid of the stabilizer for this. I have a feeling this is not going to work correctly, but just to show you how you would do this, and frankly to show you where it doesn't work, I'm just going to cut out just a little bit of this video. So now if we play this through, you kind of, there's a very subtle, but there's this jump that this guy does from here, all of a sudden. I'm going to make it a little bit more dramatic actually. He's here, and all of a sudden he's there. So there's this jump here. And I'm going to see if the morph cut can actually help us fix this. So if I bring this over, you see it works just like a transition. And we can actually shorten this, and I'm going to bring it much shorter because I just, the more that's there, the more obvious it's going to be because the more work it's doing. So I'm going to try to make this as short as possible. I'll leave it right like this. It is also doing analyzation in the background. And we'll wait for this to do its magic here and see if it's going to like this. Really, as I mentioned, this works best and looks best when you've got someone actually in camera, like a person talking to you in camera. Unfortunately, I just don't have any of that footage that I'm allowed to use, or that I would really want to use in a tutorial. This is the only footage that I actually have where I don't need to worry about who's on camera. So wait for this to get cooking here. And in the meantime, just show you a couple of other effects. You've got the keying effects. I'm not going to go through green screening. Yeah, so I couldn't find face in input video, and then this is exactly the problem. I would suggest if you've got a few jump cuts in your edit and you're trying to fix those, this is exactly what you do. I can't show you what it would look like, but you know now how to use this. And you can, again, this is one of those things where no tutorial is really going to be able to show you perfectly how to use it. You kind of have to experiment because every video is going to be slightly different. So play around with that if you've got some jump cuts you want to heal. I've used it to great effect in a few videos already. I'm not going to show you green screening because I think there's 1,000,001 tutorials about that. But under the keying is where you're going to find most of that. And really the Luma key or the color key are going to be the two that you're going to use to get rid of green or blue screen. The last video effect that I want to show you is the color correction effect. And I'm going to go to something here. We'll use this one here. These are timed pretty well already. The color doesn't need a lot of work because there's, well, frankly, not a lot of color in here. But I'm going to show you how we do this. I love to use the fast color corrector exactly because it is a fast color corrector. There we go. And it does exactly what you would expect. I'm going to just bring this open a little bit. There actually are different workspaces in Premiere. So if I go to color here, it's going to rearrange things more appropriate for doing color correction. Now, of course, the thing here is that this is getting into very advanced territory. We don't necessarily need to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to our editing workspace. And so we see this effect here in the effects pane. And the first thing we can do is fix the white balance. And we've got plenty of white here, so this is relatively easy. You actually don't want to necessarily be going on pure white. You actually want to be getting what's known as 50% gray. But I'm not sure I'm exactly going to be able to find that, so I'll just go right around here. And you can see it really did not do a lot there at all. There is not a lot here that we can do. I'm just going to show you let's just say I wanted to warm this up a bit. I wanted to make the image look warmer. What I can do is I can just drag this into that yellow area, and we can see already. I'm going to really drag it so we can see how dramatic it could be. Oops, I have problems here. There, you see, and it's almost got a sepia tone effect to it now. So clearly that's more than we want. But if I just trying to warm it up just a touch, I can bring it in here. And then if I want to really get the fill in all the color space, I can drag this bar in, and we get that warmer effect, not just filling in the whites, but filling in the blacks and filling in the midtones as well. So yeah, that's a slightly warmer, kind of like that a little bit more. And then what we can work on too is the black levels and the white levels to kind of get our contrast where we want. There's not a lot of contrast in this image, especially up in the sky. So we can see if we can fix that a little bit. I'll bring our black levels down just a little bit, and our white in just a little bit as well. And then we can adjust this gray level here to get it. There we go. Just get a little bit more contrast in there. That's pretty nice. That's actually a little bit much. Bring it back out just a little bit. Oh boy. And finally, saturation. Now, of course, there's not a lot of color in here. I would actually leave this alone for this image, but let's just say we want to add some saturation. Again, I'm going to make it really dramatic so we can see what happens. You see, all of a sudden, those colors are really popping, and that's way too much. If anything, this needs just a little bit more. And opposite goes true. If you're trying to make a black and white image, we drag this all the way down. Now we've got black and white. And if we were to do black and white, I would also suggest for an image like this, bumping up the contrast a little bit more. So there we go. That's actually kind of neat. So there are actually black and white presets we can use, but when possible, I always like to do things manually because I have a little bit more control over them. So that's some really, really basic color correction we can do here. There are a lot more color correction tools that we have kind of in our tool belt here. But if you're working on like a fast and dirty, really quick YouTube video, you really just need to color balance stuff really quickly, just kind of change things as quickly as possible. That fast color corrector is the easiest and best way to do it. There are, in the latest version of Premiere Pro CC 2015, there are these Lumetri presets, and Lumetri refers to Adobe's color grading program. That's now, they've put a bunch of those directly into Premiere Pro, and you can just pop them in. And just to show you guys what is available if you're trying to make a very distinctive look. They have these speed looks here that are actually built for particular cameras. I was shooting using a Canon 7D, so I already know I can use these presets here. And there's these, where's the neutral? Neutral start. If I were to just drop this preset straight on, it's made it a little colder. It's actually added like almost slightly, it's almost got a little bit slightly more red tone to it, and certainly a bit more contrast. That's actually pretty nice. And that's, if you're just trying to really kind of make the image look as best as it possibly could without doing a lot of work, these Lumetri presets are a really great way to do that. Also, if you're trying to get a very distinctive look, you can do that really easily. We'll go like on a really blue end here and pop this in. You can see, that's got a really affected look to it. If you're trying to get a really affected look as quickly as possible without doing a lot of work, these are a great way to do that. Here, this noir look, they've got all these different presets here and kind of really help you get a really distinctive look as quickly as possible. So that's the speed looks. Those are built specifically for certain cameras or kind of universal looks, and then they also have these presets that mimic film look. So a Fuji F125, for example, that's kind of mimicking the look of that old film stock. And again, these are really quick and easy ways. If you're shooting a fun little short film, let's say, or a YouTube video that you're trying to make look as cinematic as possible, these Lumetri presets are a really great way to kind of quickly and easily, and real quick and dirty, jump in there and have everything look, just give everything a really good look. I'm not going to go into it, but you can edit every facet of those presets. You don't just have to dump the preset in if you're trying to maybe get a little bit more golden look, or you're trying to more saturation. You can actually edit individual parts of those presets. Again, I'm not really going to go into that, but if you're interested in that, you can look that stuff up on its own. Okay, so the last thing I'm going to go over are some basic audio effects and audio correction. So same thing, under audio effects, we have all of these different effects here. And I'm going to get started with this last clip here because it's got that awful car squealing in the background and that hissing in the background as well that I want to see if I can fix a little bit. And I kind of know already that high-pitched squeal we can get rid of a bit by bringing down the high ends. And I don't want to use the parametric EQ. I want to use the standard EQ. Exactly. So if I bring the regular EQ in and drop it on the audio, just as I did with the video, but I drop it on the audio, and now I go to edit, I get this little window that comes up. And for those of you who know anything about audio, I guess I can't make that bigger. This is a pretty standard EQ graph, and we've got a couple of options here, presets that will do basic things immediately. In this case, I'm going to start off with a high cut. So we select high and hit cut, and it brings down the high end starting at about 10,000 hertz, and then it drops it straight down from there. And we're going to see just immediately and see how this makes it sound. That's still pretty bad. So I'm going to see if I can cut even down to the mids, bring this down quite a bit. Oops. -20. Let's see what happens here. Yeah, that's better already. And I can bring the output down a little bit. I'm going to see just by dragging around here if I can make. Now this is going to be, it's going to be pretty flat sounding now because I'm not going to have the full dynamic range. But it is a lot better without getting rid of the audio entirely. And this is really quick and dirty. I would not necessarily always suggest that this is the way you go about things, but nonetheless, it is one way to do it. Let's see if I can just kind of isolate that a little bit more. There are some presets you might be able to use as well, maybe even the notch. No, that's just going to drop down the middle. Oh boy, I have to go all the way back here. Interesting. Okay, well, I have to start with the beginning. Okay. Anyway, so I'm going to do that again. And once again, bring this down. Bring this down. Bring the overall output down a little bit as well. Okay. Not perfect, but it's definitely better. And we can do the same thing if we want to bring the bass up a little bit in that. Bring the low end up a little bit to get the cars vibrating a bit more. We can bring up the gain here, let's say like this. Get a little bit more of that. So then we've got these kids here. Let's say this is a sound effect, so it's already been mixed, but let's just say we want to, particularly with dialogue, if you've recorded low dialogue, a really great tool to use is the, let me find where, the multi-band compressor, or even the single band compressor. But I'll show you the single band as first. A compressor just helps to isolate and increase the volume on certain parts of the audio. So I'll drop that in here. And same thing, I hit edit here, I come up with this. And this is not going to do much, just these kids laughing. But let's say, yeah, this is going to increase the sound of the low end or the bass. Let's see how it sounds without and without it. That's with it. You can see that it's a little bit more fuller when I have this on. And if I hit these vocal boosters, this is actually going to increase the levels of these. So I'll turn that on. Do vocal attacker. And basically what it's doing is saying everything within this threshold here, just bring the volume up a little bit. And that is a really easy way. If you've got like low dialogue or speaking, you can use the single band, and I'll show you the multi-band compressor to bring up the volume of those without really having to. If you just increase like the levels of it, you're going to be increasing everything, and you'll maybe get some background noise. You'll be picking up frequencies you might not necessarily want to. And with the compressor, it's really just isolating. And sometimes it's a matter, if you don't really know what you're doing, it's a matter of some experimentation, but nonetheless, there it is. So just to give you an idea of what it sounds like when you really kind of affect just a certain part of it, there's this walkie-talkie preset. And when we play this, we're going to hear, it's going to make it sound exactly like it's in a walkie-talkie. I'm just going to solo this just so we hear just that. For some reason... was I turning it? There we go. It was. All right. Hitting the wrong button there. So there we go. Now it sounds like it's coming through a walkie-talkie. So in this case, I want to maybe enhance the lows on this, just for whatever reason. A little bit more background there. Okay. And so those are some just really quick and easy audio presets that we can use. Oops. Unsolo that. And there we go. I actually want to fade that audio out to the song. Not that it really matters, but anyway, so those are just a few audio effects and that we can use, and video effects that we can use. Of course, there are so many effects in here that can help you. I just wanted to go over just a few video and audio effects that I kind of use that are in my toolbar that I use pretty much every time that I edit a video. Try to get it to sound as good as possible, the best that it possibly can. So I'm going to leave it there. If you guys have specific questions about something in Premiere, or there's some other tutorial, something deep dive tutorial that you'd love for me to do, please let me know in the comments, and I will cook some of those up for you as soon as I have time. So thanks so much for watching. This has been Tutorial Dude. Be sure to check out some of my other tutorials and subscribe. Thanks, everybody.